Hello everyone, welcome to the Storyteller. And today, as we know, the birth anniversary of Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, so we are going to know some facts about Netaji. So without any loss of time, let's start. Subhas Chandra Bose, by name, he is also known as Netaji. He was born at January 23rd, 1897 in Cuttack, which comes under Odisha in that time, but in British India he comes under the Bengal presidency. People says that he died at August 18, 1945 in Taipei, Taiwan, but there is a lot of confusion and a lot of controversy about his death. So we are not going to stuck in a controversy about his death. Just we start how he started his life. Bose was an Indian revolutionary prominent in the independence movement against British rule of India. He also led an Indian national force from abroad against the Western power during World War II. He was a contemporary of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, at times an ally and at other times an adversary. Bose was known in particular for his militant approach to independence and for his push of socialist policies. Let's start something about his early life and political activities. The son of a wealthy and prominent Bengali lawyer, Bose studied at Presidency College, Calcutta, from which he was expelled in 1916 for nationalist activities and the Scottish College. He then was sent by his parents to the University of Cambridge in England to prepare for the Indian civil service. In 1920, he passed the civil service examination, but in April 1921, after hearing the nationalist turmoils in India, he resigned his candidacy and hurried back to India. Throughout his career, especially in its early stage, he was supported financially and emotionally by an elder brother, Subhas Chandra Bose, from 1889 to 1950. Subhas Chandra Bose was a wealthy Calcutta lawyer and Indian National Congress politician. Bose joined the non-corporation movement started by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who had made the Indian National Congress a powerful, non-violent organization. Bose was advised by Gandhi to work under Chittaranjan Das, a politician in Bengal. There, Bose became a youth educator, journalist, and commandant of the Bengal Congress Volunteers. His activities led to his imprisonment in December 1921. In 1924, he was appointed Chief Executive Officer of the Calcutta Municipal Corporation, with Das as mayor. Bose was soon after deported to Burma, as we know as Burma as Myanmar, because he was suspected of connection with secret revolutionary movement. And released in 1927, he returned to find Bengal Congress affairs in disarray after the death of Das, and Bose was elected president of the Bengal Congress. Shortly thereafter, he and Jawaharlal Nehru becomes the two general secretaries of the Indian National Congress. Together, they represented the more militant left-wing faction of the party against the more compromising right-wing Gandhian faction. Let's know about this a falling out with Gandhi, how he met with Gandhi and how the relationship with Gandhi. So let's know that vocal support of Gandhi increased within the Indian National Congress. Meanwhile, and in light of this, Gandhi resumed a more commanding role in the party. When the civil disobedience movement was started in 1930, Bose was already in detention for his associations with an underground revolutionary group, the Bengal Volunteers. Nevertheless, he was elected mayor of Calcutta while in prison, released and then re-arrested several times for his suspected role in violent acts. Bose was finally allowed to proceed to Europe after his contracted tuberculosis and was released for ill health. In enforced exile and still ill, he wrote The Indian Struggle 1920 to 1934 and pleaded India's cause with European leaders. He returned from Europe in 1936, was again taken into custody, and was released after a year. Meanwhile, Bose became increasingly critical of Gandhi's more conservative economic as well as his less confrontational approach towards independence. In 1938, he was elected president of the Indian National Congress and formed a national planning committee, which formulated a policy of broad industrialization. However, this didn't harmonize with Gandhian economic thought, which clung to the notion of cottage industries and benefiting from the user of the country's own resources. Bose's vindication came in 1939 when he defeated a Gandhian rival for re-election. Nonetheless, the rebel president felt bound to resign because of the lack of Gandhi's support. He founded the Forward Bloc, hoping to rally radical elements, but was again incarcerated in July 1940. His refusal to remain in prison at this critical period of India's history was expressed in a determination to fast to death, which frightened the British government into releasing him on January 26, 1941. Though closely watched, he escaped from his Calcutta residency in disguise and traveling via Kabul to Moscow. Eventually reached Germany in April. In Nazi Germany, Bose came under the tutelage of newly created Special Bureau for India, guided by Adam von Trott-Jusolj. He and other Indians who had gathered in Berlin made regular broadcasts from the German-sponsored Azad Hind radio beginning in January 1942, speaking in English, Hindi, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, Gujarati, and Pashto. A little more than a year after the Japanese invasion of Southeast Asia, Bose left Germany traveling by German and Japanese submarines and by plane, and arrived in May 1943 in Tokyo. On July 4th, he assumed leadership of the Indian independence movement in East Asia and proceeded, with Japanese aid and influence, to form a trained army of about 40,000 troops in Japanese-occupied Southeast Asia. On October 21, 1943, Bose proclaimed the establishment of a provisional independent Indian government and his so-called Indian National Army, that is Azad Hind Force. Alongside Japanese troops advanced to Rangoon, that means Yangon or Rangoon, and thence overland into India, reaching Indian soil on March 18, 1944 and moving into Kochima and the plains of Imphal. In a stubborn battle, the mixed Indian and Japanese forces, lacking Japanese air support, were defeated and forced to retreat. The Indian National Army, nevertheless, for some time succeeded in maintaining its identity as a liberation army based in Burma and then Indochina. With the defeat of Japan, however, Bose's fortune ended. A few days after Japan's announced surrender in August 1945, Bose, fleeing Southeast Asia, reportedly died in a Japanese hospital in Taiwan as a result of burns injuries from a plane crash. So that was a story related to the great leader and the great warrior and the great revolutionary Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. So let's be with us and support us and go and check out our other videos in the playlist of history. So thank you guys. Thank you for supporting us.